What was this deciding moment that you said, you know what, I'm just gonna stop this and do my own thing?
Don't aim for 100% sustainability because it's impossible if you want to do it the right way. Rather be transparent.
Do you think it's still a good time for sustainable businesses or anyone with a sustainable idea to start their business, start their startup?
I think that's the secret of starting a business, being in a very specific niche, making sure you have a great product market fit.
Then let me challenge you on one thing.
Yes, please.
How about Black Week? Hello and welcome to this episode of the e-commerce Germany News podcast. My name is Efe and today I have a very special guest from Kora Mikino, the CEO and founder Julia Rittereiser. Since 4 years, she's been running successfully a business tapping into women's period underwear. And today you're going to find out why she left her job at Google and completely started her own business from scratch. I think many of you out there will relate to concrete tips from Julia in terms of how sustainable businesses can be profitable and thrive even in today's circumstances. Julia, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to come and talk about your business model today. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for the invite. My name is Julia and I'm the founder of Kora Mikino. We do sustainable period underwear and we're on the market since 4 years.
Of course, we'll come to Kora Mikino in detail, but what did you do before the current job?
So Kora Mikino does textiles, right? And before that, I worked in tech. I had nothing to do with textiles. I learned on the job. So I worked at Google before, and before that, I worked at Mercedes-Benz. So that's basically my journey.
Okay. Yeah, between 2013 and 2015, I guess you were at Google and you did primarily Google Ads, Google Shopping, and retail. How was that experience?
Yeah, that was super interesting. So I was on the consulting side, selling ads to big advertisers. Yeah. But it was a lot of theory, and now I'm in the position where I put those things into place and use them myself. So it's really interesting, switch positions.
Yeah. What was this deciding moment that you said, you know what, I'm just going to stop this and do my own thing?
It was not just one moment. It added up. It became a bit repetitive, to be really honest, what I was doing. Even the job was really nice and I had really nice colleagues. But I always wanted to do my own business, but I never had the courage. So at one point it built up to enough courage and I handed in my resignation. So yeah. But
you had this clear cut and you said, as of now, I will do this, or did you already have in your mind what you want to do?
Yeah, before I handed in my resignation, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something with period underwear. Yeah. I had a plan, the business plan was already in the making. So a very German approach, I think.
Really very structured, I guess. Yeah. I would do it the same way. Yeah. I don't blame you. For anyone that's completely new to the niche or this part of the market, how would you, do you have an elevator pitch? How do you summarize what you do?
Yeah, I don't have a perfect elevator pitch. That's probably part of the problem. No, so it's an underwear and it replaces tampons and liners. And you can just pop it on in the morning, you wear it the whole day, you bleed in, and then at the end of the day, you just wash it out, put it in the washing machine, and you can use it over and over again. Yeah. And you don't feel it while you're wearing it. It's not like a pad. Pads can be really uncomfy. It's not in your body.
I can't really tell from experience, but
you can imagine. Yeah. And it's way more comfy. And since you can wash it over and over again, it's not that expensive, and also it can be really sustainable because you can wash it with your normal clothing.
But why period underwear?
So back then I really wanted to have a physical product and not just selling software. And I changed a lot of things in my personal life. I wanted to live more sustainable and use reusable things. And one of the last areas was personal care. And the items on the market were not good enough or not convenient enough, I think.
Yeah.
And I saw like another brand in the US, and they did period underwear, but not as sustainable enough for me. So I thought like, maybe that's a good niche. I can do something really sustainable that's really comfy and solves the problem. And actually period underwear is not a new category. If you go, for instance, to the Dresdner Hygienemuseum, you see like period underwear from the 40s and 50s. And then this product were hidden from the market or not manufactured anymore. And we all switched to tampons and liners, and now we're bringing it back.
You know, Julia, I've been doing a little bit of reading, and I was really surprised to find out that period underwear traces its roots back to 1920s, right? So back then, I guess the innovations of today were not possible. I don't know how reliable these underwear were, but yeah, today there's all kinds of new innovation that makes it really a reliable product, right?
Yeah, today it's really reliable, and also it's really interesting. It disappeared from the market because you can sell obviously more tampons and pads to someone on a monthly basis than selling a sustainable product once and it lasts for a couple of years. So that's why many very sustainable innovations, like from 100 years ago, disappeared from the market.
Yeah. And then you came in to change that.
Only me.
But I mean, as it was 2018, as you decided and resigned from Google. So were there many competitors? How did the landscape look like?
Back then, there were no competitors. One other one started at the very similar time, maybe like a couple of months ahead of us. And now there are a lot of competitors, but that's something that was very foreseeable. So we expected like the traditional underwear companies adding period underwear to their inventory. This it's actually happening very slowly. And then there is another couple of players who I don't really like because they buy really cheap stuff of Alibaba.
Okay.
And sell it for the very similar prices than I do, claiming it to be sustainable.
Somehow greenwashing, right?
Massive green and social washing, because at the very end they have no clue where it's actually manufactured. Because, you know, I'm getting contacted from the very same manufacturers in China as well. I think it's just really nasty if you sell a product for a very high price point and you buy it for $1 or even less. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess many consumers don't know the difference, right? So how do you differentiate yourself and inform them? I think this is a huge challenge, not just for your business, but as awareness increases in terms of sustainability, I think we're going to see more and more of this, because like also on marketplaces, you see brands selling products for a long time successfully, and all of a sudden there are like replicas emerging out of nowhere, and then they steal business from them, right?
Yeah, and I think that's part of the game probably. So what we're trying is we try to be like super transparent. So I try to share with our community. We do a lot of social media where we source our fabrics, where we manufacture. We don't go down to like it's that an address and that is the very one we're sourcing from, because then we're like copy pastable even easier.
Yeah, definitely.
But we're trying to be as transparent as possible, and also we only manufacture in the European Union.
Yeah,
that's for a small brand like me. It's the only way to really ensure everyone who's like involved in the product, even if it be like on the sewing machine, is treated fair and is also paid a fair wage.
Recently, I read this book, which kind of inspired me, the 1,000 True Fans. You know, especially for niche players, it's quite inspiring to have like really true followers, true fans that really believe in your product.
Yeah.
Would you relate? Do you think your customers keep coming back because they know they have a reliable, good product with you? By the way, we have a special guest today in today's podcast, Lucy. Lucy. So now our viewers and listeners know
where the
grounding
and
the noises have been coming from. Lucy, take a seat.
Take a seat, please.
Anyway,
back to your question. So, I'm sorry. Help me again. What was it?
We were just talking...
With the trust thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I just recently looked into our data, and we do have customers who spend like over 1,000 euros with us. And that's pretty interesting and remarkable, because the average product is like 35 euros.
Yeah.
And we looked into them, and we also contacted them and asked them, well, thank you very much.
Are you okay?
Also, but why? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And some of them use it like, they really love it, and they give it as a present to all their friends, which is really sweet. And we have a really good repurchase rate. And also we have a lot of word of mouth. So I'm really grateful for that. Because as a small startup, if I would have to pay for every new person on my website, and I wouldn't have like organic traffic, that would be very, very expensive. Yeah. And like this, it's really helpful to have fans.
How many customers do you have after 4 years?
After 4 years, I think, so we do mostly everything through our website, but we have also B2B, so I don't really know. But we have on our website, we have around like 50,000 customers so far. And like through B2B, I would imagine like another 10, 20, maybe 25, so that it adds up.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's the B2B side looking?
It's looking, we actually, I hope they don't watch it, but we don't put a lot of effort into that. It's just like a side hustle of ours, because we got so many requests from people like wanting to resell our products that we couldn't say no. So it's around 10% of our business. It's little, but it's steady, and some time when we don't have a lot of like D2C sales, B2B is working really well, and vice versa. So it's really helpful to have both sides.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Julia, I actually met you 2 years ago,
yes.
Back in the time like where we were both contest winners of the Call for Papers at EGN Berlin Expo. By the way, on the 23rd of February, there's the next edition. Back then, you also made a presentation about the mistakes that, I guess they were like, you had some sort of a clickbait, like 50 mistakes that you've done as
so
part
far.
of your...
Yes,
I think actually this is quite inspiring for our listeners and viewers as well. What are some of the mistakes that you have done, you have made throughout the founding journey?
Oh, a very recent mistake. No, a very old mistake, but that hit back very recently is, for instance, I had to learn when you do business with a supplier and you allow that supplier to be late on like delivery for a certain number of times, it's a common business practice. So you cannot roll back. You cannot at one point then say, sorry, now I wanted to be punctual again.
Yeah. No compromises.
No compromise. And no, you have to be really like, sorry, you're late one day. I have to send you a letter like calling you out for that. Because if you don't do it, it fires back. And it's a very expensive mistake. Also, like for instance, like contracts. I did some of my contracts with suppliers and other parties without lawyers at the beginning. Really bad idea. Yeah. The lawyer might cost you a couple of €1,000, but I can promise you some of your mistakes are even more expensive.
So don't save so much at the beginning. Really invest in that.
Invest in a good lawyer sometimes, and also you can be kind to your partners in business, but also really insist on that everyone delivers on the terms and conditions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, those are good tips. We haven't got to 50 yet, but I guess that's a good start. And going back to 2018, so you started completely alone, right?
Yeah.
You had a business plan. You filed in your resignation letter at Google. How did your team grow? I think you guys are at 6 people nowadays.
So the first I hired I think an intern. Like classical startup move. And then I think after 6 months, that was then May 2019, I hired my first full-time employee and she's still with us. And she took over e-commerce, and that was like the best decision ever. Having someone on the team, and she is relatively senior. She had I think 10 years of business experience back then already. That was really helpful to grow from there on. Yeah.
I think judging from some of the indicators, you mentioned 50,000 customers and like €1,000 spent, people coming back. It looks to me that the kind of business model you created might be out of a niche, but it does perform in its own right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, of course. So we're profitable. We don't have an investor yet. That's something we never really wanted. Now, in the current economic situation, I'm reconsidering that maybe. But yeah, it works. I think if you really niche down, it's probably the best thing you can do, because you can always broaden up your focus or your inventory or your scope. But when you have like a real product market fit, that's like the best assurance to like grow a business.
How many products do you have in total in the online shop?
It varies. It's like between, let's say, 10 to 25, but it's all period underwear.
Yeah.
So we tried different.
You have variations.
It's all variations.
Yeah.
Light days, heavy days, different sizes, different cuts, with lace, very basic. All these. You can play around with that. We tried different categories or like add-ons, but they never performed as well as period underwear.
I think looking at your website, I was also interested in, like, I found it very nice that you, instead of working with professional models, you actually work with women out of your community.
Yeah.
And then they're from all sizes pretty much, and different races and stuff. So it's very inclusive, the whole thing. I have the feeling.
Yeah, we want like that our customers, it's mostly women, that they can see themselves, that they can imagine how a period underwear on a 42 looks like.
Yeah.
So we need to show a woman wearing a 42 or 44 on the website. And also it's part of like our marketing. It's not so much like a strategy, but it comes more natural for us. We really like to include our community. For instance, for colors, sizes, and shapes, we let them vote what they want next, what they like best, because it's.
How do they vote for these things?
Like on Instagram, we just put up a story and we show like 2 or 3 colors, and we just let them vote. Like, what's your favorite color for the next panty? And it's really helpful for us because it's like really cheap market research. We make sure we only manufacture stuff people really want to buy. And also it's like we invite them to be part of our extended team, and that really creates a community. And that's how we do that. Every time I try to do other marketing or like other content on Instagram, it never felt really natural. Like, I don't want to dance like on a TikTok video, but when I do not yet. No, you won't see that because I'm the worst dancer ever. But when it's about like involving people in our products and the behind the scenes, that's when it gets really interesting for us, and we get the best view, click, and engagement rates from our community.
I mean, maybe that's a good segue to talk about the channels that you address, right? So you have Instagram, you have organic. What do you do apart from Instagram? Do you do paid ads, for example? And how do you do that? I think many sustainable brands, they go a different way to reach those people that are typically looking for an alternative. They don't want to go to the traditional businesses that, like your journey, why you decided to do this in the first place.
Yeah, so our marketing mix actually doesn't look so different from a non-sustainable business, I think. So we do like Google ads. We have major issues with policy though, because we show female bodies and they're very conservative. We do Facebook. Particularly
by, just to pinpoint on that, with Google, you do Google Performance Max campaigns.
Yeah, mostly that. And also like a bit of YouTube, and we play around to make sure we have some profitable setup. And it changes sometimes.
You do bumper ads on YouTube, or like just doing PMax, you can also tap into all these channels like YouTube and Gmail. And
PMax is like the best version. Sometimes we do like shopping for YouTube, but it never performs to the extent as PMax does.
Okay.
And we do like Facebook ads, and there honestly I play around like all the time, because Facebook ads, like the performance went so down after iOS 14. I think everyone in e-commerce knows that. So we play around what still works, and we do sometimes a bit of lead generation. That before I do a sale, I rather collect email addresses and then convert them over email, because email is my most profitable channel to activate for sales and for everything. Yeah. And I own that data. So, and on Facebook and Instagram and Google, I have to pay every time I want to reach someone.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You mentioned that we talked about the community you have. Yeah. Is it on Facebook? Facebook has established itself as a community for many, since the last couple of years, but now we're also seeing that they are making the move. On my WhatsApp, I just see WhatsApp communities these days. Where's your community?
It's mostly on Instagram, and we looked at TikTok and we started like doing some things there, but it's a long-term game, I think, until you see like it as a channel where you can actually create a proper community. And Facebook itself, no, nothing's happening on Facebook for us, at least. Anymore. Yeah.
Apart from like ads on Facebook, because they took a major hit, in my opinion, after the iOS 14 switch and all this stuff. But the communities, like the closed communities, they still have quite a bit of engagement, as far as I know. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's a good segue to also talk about the do's and don'ts for other startups that want to tap into sustainability, right?
Yeah.
So anyone that wants to develop a sustainable business, do their marketing around that. Do you have maybe concrete tips what they should be doing?
Yeah, I think don't aim for 100% sustainability, because it's impossible if you want to do it the right way. Rather be transparent. So for instance, next year we're going to ship a product to the market where we don't use the most sustainable fabric on the market, because we still want to source in Europe.
Yeah.
And I don't want to source that fabric from China. So I'm very transparent about that. And I think that's important. Don't lie to the customer. Just say, hey, we are at X% of sustainability at the moment. We're trying to get more, but this is not possible for XYZ reason. I think that's better than just greenwashing or lying about things.
Yeah, especially if you have a following that actually knows and associates themselves with your brand, and they know your values, they know the mission. So I think that you have their support, right?
Yeah, people are not stupid. They totally understand. And they also, for instance, in our case, they want to pay 35 euros for period underwear and not 60. So they get why we have sometimes to make a compromise.
Julia, how about influencer marketing?
Yeah, so we don't do as much at the moment with influencer marketing anymore. Couple of reasons. I think it got really crowded, and the traditional ad spenders really, they work a lot with influencers, and that increased the prices.
Yeah.
So it's many times really tricky to be profitable. And I don't have a big investor. I don't have like a 2 million budget in marketing a year. So I have to be profitable on the first sale. So it's not that much anymore.
Yeah, because I got curious, and I was like looking at TikTok and other platforms. You see typically a lot of, since last year, we see a boom in user-generated content.
Yeah.
Of course, this might, as you rightly point out, have its impact on the prices as well, right?
Yeah, you can totally see that. And that's good for the influencer, because they get like paid a good salary for the work they do. I think for many years, many people look down on influencer work, but that's a proper job and it's good for them. And I don't want to negotiate them down.
Yeah.
But for us, it's sometimes really on the edge if this is still a good thing. And it's so unpredictable. There might be that one influencer with 100,000 followers, and she has great engagement, and you can make like an amazing campaign with her. And then you have someone else who looks from the outside, very similar, still like, I know it's both individuals, and nearly nothing is happening, and you're like totally paying up. And that's, for me, I can't afford that, because I have to be sustainable even in my spending habit. So it needs to be predictable.
Then let me challenge you on one thing.
Yes, please.
How about Black Week?
Black Week. we called it Red Week. But yeah, so that's a great example of like being sustainable and also like making compromises and being transparent. When I started that company, I was like, no, we're not doing Black Week. We don't do Black Friday. We don't do Cyber Monday. We don't give like massive discounts. Well, this year we did. The war started and the economy totally was turned upside down, and like people don't have that much money in the pocket to buy stuff. So we had quite some overstock.
Yeah.
We had major issues with one of our manufacturers who drama. So our stock was crazy. So we needed to get a bit rid of. And also there's another dimension when you do period stuff. It's also about access. And for many people, when the disposable income decreases, it gets tricky, like buying like pads and liners, not even thinking about period underwear. So I many times get like little love letters on Instagram or an email, like people sharing, if you wouldn't have done the sale, I couldn't afford that.
So as a matter of fact, there was no pushback from your customers.
No.
Rather, no one complained, hey, why are you giving these for
Yeah.
cheaper?
Well, before Black Week, I did a post on Instagram where I explained why we do it.
Yeah.
And when you make sure that you explain yourself and loop people in, they totally understand.
Yeah, again, going back to your point, transparency, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Really be honest and transparently explain everything to them. And especially at a time when the consumption power is diminishing because of economic concerns, I think many people reverted to these deals because otherwise they can't afford certain items, or they want to buy it as a present to someone they love, and they couldn't otherwise afford it, right?
Absolutely. We totally saw that. We saw that a lot of our long-time customers used that opportunity to stock up, and we got a lot of new customers where we think we know that they're really young. They could not have afforded that product otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also good not to be very, very religious about it, because as a matter of fact, someone who uses your Black Friday deal, let's say, and buys sustainable period underwear is moving away from tampons. That's one person that's actually switching from traditional practice whereby they're over years they're causing tons and tons of trash, right? And CO2 impact. Yeah,
we're still converting that person into like a reusable product.
Yeah. I thought about it. As a matter of fact, actually, the market is pretty big, like 1.8 billion menstruating women in the world, right? And I also read on your page that you do a project called Period Pledge.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we supply NGOs with a pattern, like a sewing pattern, that they can manufacture their own period underwear. Because
in Germany or wider?
Mostly outside of Europe.
Yeah.
And because for many menstruating people, having like proper hygiene products it's a major hassle, and they miss school, they miss other opportunities in their life because they have to stay at home menstruating, and the hygiene situations are many times really, really bad.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to like contribute with being still a small startup. And so we thought the easiest thing we can do is like share our knowledge. So on a regular basis, I have like NGOs contacting us, and we send them our pattern, and then they do make their own period underwear and like customize it to their local needs.
As far as I understand, Germany is your commercial home turf where you make your money so that you can afford engaging in such projects, so that the business runs on the one hand, on the other hand you can be, you built the entire thing on sustainability is in your DNA, so you want to do these things, but you have to be profitable, or you have to run a proper business on the other side.
So we are no NGO. Many people kind of confuse that. We still have to make money because running like a sustainable business and like paying wages like within Europe, well, we have to make money. But also it's a passion of ours to make sure other people who are not as fortunate as we get supplied with stuff. And we don't want to donate period underwear outside of Europe, because many times like textile donations destroy like the local textile market.
Yeah.
And it's not really helpful. It's rather helpful empowering people. So when we do donations, for instance, we did like a donation scheme on Black Week, which is actually another way to make sure your community supports sales and is okay with that. We donate within Germany, for instance. We just collected around 300 panties we give to Caritas in Berlin.
Yeah.
But we would not send them off to a country in Africa because they don't need our textiles. They rather need empowerment.
I understand. Looking at the next couple of years, what are your business plans? Without letting out all the secrets, but what are some of your plans going forward?
Yeah, so it's a bit unpredictable at the moment because we all know the economic situation is a bit crazy. But we want to like improve our supply chain. Yeah. We want to make it even more local. So we want to have it actually hyper local. So we are starting like doing period underwear where everything is like made in Portugal, to have the shortest supply chain possible. That's really exciting, and also it's like very transparent. And also we're thinking about starting a small production line within Berlin, because we want to like be true makers and want to like even sharpen our identity and distinguish ourselves from those Alibaba resellers. Yeah. And want to make like tailor-made products and like really stand out. So we're investing in the design, into transparency, better supply chains. And also we're thinking about new categories of products next to period underwear, but I'm really conscious what that could be. Okay.
You're conscious because you mentioned you have 15 to 20 products in total, and some variations around that.
I'm conscious because I don't want to add just another product no one really needs, or where you would have to do a lot of marketing to create a demand. So we want to have something really useful, something that is sustainable and still that is sellable via our online shop. So not too many products fit into that. Yeah. Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you end up with lots of complexity, right?
Yeah.
So the more you add to the portfolio, you have to manage all that, you have to market all that.
Yeah. And I really enjoy that our team is so small, because that's how I operate the best, with as little people as possible. And so I don't want to have like 20 product managers on my team, because I have to supply from like 200 companies now.
But how is, for example, when we look at new work topics, home office and all these things, like development at the workplace, when you have such a small team, how do you see these topics? Like, how do you embed all that? Because I think the team spirit is everything.
Yeah, that's true, and there's probably room for improvement. So what we do, for most jobs, you can work from home, like 100%. We actually just got rid of our office and moved into a co-working space because it was really big and I was mostly alone there. So I think around 2/3 of our company work 100% from home, and they're not even based in Berlin. So I have two people sitting in south of Germany, one sitting like in Sachsen-Anhalt, and I even have like 3 people in Berlin, and they don't even come to the office. For some jobs, like product management.
Was there a secret message for them to go back?
No. It's part of the working contract. They can choose where they want to work from. Yeah. And for me, as a small startup, that's like really important, giving that flexibility because for hiring, because I cannot pay like a tech salary. Let's be honest, that's not possible. But I can allow someone to work 100% from home, or like do really flexible hours that's compatible with like a childcare. Yeah. Because even to this day, probably you know that childcare in Germany is not going from 8 till 6 in the evening. Most people have to pick up their kids at 4. And I think as a modern employer, if you're flexible on these things, it's totally to your advantage.
I mean, what I really like is that you started the whole thing with like the perspective of destigmatizing the whole period topic, right? Yeah. At the workplace, also many women once a month go through. On your website, you even have the pain scala, right?
Yeah.
So how much pain you experience during your period. I found that very cool. You have most pain I've seen.
It's very painful.
So it also has an impact on your work, I guess, right? So, I've even seen some companies that give people half the day or like the day off or home office or whatever. How do you see that? What should businesses consider?
That's a good question. I'm actually against period or menstrual holidays or sick days, specific ones, because then you have to tell you, like in a small startup like ours, it doesn't matter because we probably anyways know who's like on the period right now.
It's bread and butter.
It's bread and butter business. But I wonder, like in a conservative business, then I have to like out myself and say, today I don't want to take a normal sick day, but I want to take a period sick day. Not everyone feels comfy doing that. And also I wonder if an employer has the risk that women or menstruating people stay away from work more often. Maybe it's not to our advantage when it comes to jobs, then a man gets chosen. So I believe everyone who has pain on their period and is not able to work should just be able to call in sick. But I don't believe in that you have to tell that other person, your employer, why you're sick. Because that's amazing in Germany, and that's we don't have to tell our employers why we're at home. We just can say, I'm sick, sorry, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
And I don't want to move away from that, but that's my personal opinion.
But the way I understood it is that you guys, you folks, putting that on your website is a message of transparency. This should be known by everyone. It should not be a topic. You should be proud to, you know what I mean? Like, that's why I was thinking. How do you see that elsewhere, right?
You mean?
I mean, what was your idea putting that in a transparent way?
Actually, there was not so much thinking about it, to be really honest. We just wanted to like share like the period underwear from our line we personally like the best, like everyone could choose one. And then we just wanted to share like a bit, because period pain, it's like a huge topic, so we just wanted to give like a personal insight.
True, there were the variations underneath each one of those. Yeah, that's nice. Julia, it's been inspiring to listen to your anecdotes and the insights that you provided from your own experience running your own startup within the last 4 years. Right now, you also mentioned that many startups are going through a tough phase, and it's been also a bit tougher for you guys, maybe. Do you think it's still a good time for sustainable businesses or anyone with a sustainable idea to start their business, start their startup, maybe a one-person business? Would you recommend it?
Yeah. I think like in times like these, there are still opportunities. You have to maybe like think twice or 3 times about what's your opportunity and really niche down. I think that's the secret of like starting a business, like being in a very specific niche, making sure you have a great product market fit, like take your time, talk to a lot of people and make sure your product is really needed and fixing an existing problem. I think then you can still start. Probably at the moment it's harder to raise money, but I'm not an expert on that. So just hang in there, and times will change. Like I'm a very optimistic person, and we can see it back in history. When there was a down, there was an up again. So that's logic, right? So
I always love to end on a positive note. So I think that gives me the exact platform to do so. Julia, thank you very, very much for accepting our invitation, for being here and inspiring our listeners and viewers with your insights. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having us.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the E-commerce Germany News Podcast. If you did, make sure to give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, and follow us on our channels. Feel free to also recommend this podcast to your contacts and friends that may want to know more about e-commerce, digital marketing, and success stories. Thank you very much for listening and watching, and see you on the next episode.